Hello, my name is Joe Reyes, and I'm going to be presenting the second part of chapter 18, which is LGBTQ issues in community psychology, shifting terrain, and the ongoing struggle for freedom from oppression. So once again, this is going to be the second part of the first chapter. So we're picking up from there. So there have been advances in global human rights. 14 nations have adopted or strengthened anti-discrimination and hate crimes laws extending protections on the grounds of sexual orientation and/or gender identity, and in two cases also including legal protection for intersex persons. Three states have abolished criminal sanctions for homosexuality. 12 states have introduced marriage or civil unions for same sex couples nationally, and 10 have introduced reforms that, to varying degrees, make it easier for transgender persons to obtain legal recognition of their gender identity. And also in 2015, the Supreme Court here in America made same sex marriages legal in all 50 states in the Obergefell versus Hodges. Unfortunately, on the other side, there has also been regression in human and global human rights. In 2012, Brazilian authorities documented 310 murders where homophobia or transphobia was a motive. Between January 2013 and March 2014, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights reported at least 770 acts of violence against LGBTQ people in 25 organizations of American states, notably Colombia, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Venezuela. I say notably because these are communities, people that we have scattered out throughout Miami, and perhaps they come here with these motives. They could also be LGBTQ friendly, but sometimes they can also come to America with these ideals. And actually, our book also states that it's easy to believe that America is a safe haven for LGBTQ, but that's not the case. There's prejudice here, there's discrimination here. Unfortunately, just like other parts in around the world. And an example, unfortunate example of this would be on August 12th, 2016, 49 people were killed and 53 wounded in a hate-motivated mass shooting at a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida. Definitely nobody should be killed because of their sexual orientation. That's a tragedy and that shouldn't have happened. All right, so understanding resilience in LGBTQ individuals and communities. So the definition of resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. A recent review of the literature revealed that while the three domains, community, family, and individual, are presented in LGBTQ resiliency research, the majority of studies focus on the individual level and very few speak on the interaction between domains. This is important because, of course, research is important, uh, but when we start to have research connecting the individual, families, and then communities, then that can have a greater effect on LGBTQ. For example, research on individuals, as we've read throughout this chapter, we know that LGBTQ face discrimination, they face challenges, as a part of their lives because of their sexual orientation. And so research can be more impactful when it is about the individual, when it's about the family, and when it's about the community. When you have research that is more comprehensive about those three domains, then that can lead to more possible change because now you're dealing with systematic changes. You're dealing with status quos, and so from a from a transformative perspective, if you deal with the three domains as opposed to just dealing with the individual, then I believe that it would be uh, it would be it'll put you in a better position to accomplish change, transformative change. And Case and Hunter in 2012 also believed this. Resiliency, they said, resiliency should be regarded in part as dependent on individual, familial, and community supports that provide protection against negative outcomes. And then our authors say we challenge the field of community psychologists to think critically about what we have already known about vulnerability shaped by social class, race, ability, power, and privilege, and to focus on addressing deficits while attending to the strengths. So for our purpose in this chapter, so we want to focus on the vulnerabilities that we know about LGBTQ, and we want to maintain the strengths. All right, and I'm going to try to do that in this next slide. So this next slide was created by me, and with one main purpose and reason. I felt that I would be remiss if I did a presentation on LGBTQ and I did not discuss a bill that's literally going, that's in social media, it's in the news, it's in our lives right now as we speak, as this presentation is going on. And so my sole purpose is to kind of bring this information if you haven't heard of it. And if you have heard of it, I've tried to dissect it to the best of my ability, to try to incorporate it into this presentation because this bill is very important for LGBTQ supporters and in allies. And before I actually start to talk about the bill, I would like to say that I am not going against anything or supporting anything here. I just want to kind of bring both sides. And in the next slide, you will see why I want to do that. Of course, I have my opinions, but for this presentation, it's not relevant. And so here we go. So in the middle, as you can see there, I have kind of categories. And then on each side, I have, to the best of my ability, I try to kind of uh, describe each side. So here we go. Name of the bill. On the anti-bill side, or the people that go against the bill, they call it the Don't Say Gay bill. And on the pro-bill side, or the technical name of it too, is the Parental Rights and Education Bill. The age affected, this is the same for both, that's why it's blank, is kindergarten to third grade. All right, so the core belief, and this is really what separates both groups. On the pro-bill side, they believe that parents should decide on how and when to introduce LGBTQ topics to their children. That is their view on the pro-bill side. On the anti-bill side, schools should have LGBTQ within instruction, regardless of whether parents support LGBTQ children or not. So that's really the crux of the difference between both parties. And I can see, and I hope you can see also the difference because it's really why actually the bill was created. Um, so moving forward, issues on the anti-bill side, most feel that the bill is not inclusive to LGBTQ children. On the pro-bill side, most feel that instruction should not include education on sexual orientation or gender identity for school children. This is pretty similar to the core beliefs, and like I mentioned earlier, the core beliefs is really where everything's at, and everything else is just lower level. So the the uh, the opposers of the bill, they feel like this is not inclusive to LGBTQ children, and the people that support it, they don't believe that children should be exposed to that sort of material. All right, and then lastly, on legal issues, the Trevor Project says that provisions within the bill appear to undermine LGBTQ support in schools and include vague parental notification requirements which could be effectively required just to out LGBTQ students to their legal guardians without their consent, regardless of whether they are supportive. And so I know that's a mouthful, but basically, uh, the Trevor Project, they are saying that there is requirements there that teachers or school administrators will have to basically let parents know of LGBTQ disclosures, thinking any sort of behavior with LGBTQ, and they would have to report it to their parents, regardless if they're in agreement or not. On the pro bill side, potential legal action can be taken against teachers and school personnel that go against a bill that goes in effect on July 1st, 2022. Now, I didn't go in depth. I don't know what legal action can happen, but I did read an article where a teacher was saying that he was actually considering retiring because he didn't know if he can teach about LGBTQ historical figures or just anybody LGBTQ that identifies as LGBTQ or part of it. He didn't know if he can teach about that because he could potentially face discipline. So he was thinking about retiring. So yeah. All right. And so I wanted to break it down to both sides and try my best. Pardon me if something was wrong there, but I wanted to break it down to kind of really talk about what community psychologists could do. So on the first bullet there, I got politics and politicization, and uh, I have that there for the simple reason that politics play a part in our lives, and community psychologists, number one, they can't be naive and believe that they don't play a part in this issue, in this bill. For instance, uh, notice how it has two names. This is something that happens in politics. So the name that the governor Ron DeSantis, his bill is called the Parental Rights and Education Bill. The opposers of the bill, people that are not in agreement, they call it the Don't Say Gay bill. This is something that happens with politics, and excuse me, people are not fond of the bill. They give it a different name, a name that they feel kind of more reflects what it really means, and so it just happens. For instance, with the Affordable Health Care Act, that's the name of it, but most of us know it as Obamacare. And so that's one thing you want to be aware of. There's even politicization within the actual name of the bill. There's politicization in politics. So that's one thing you want to be aware of as a community psychologist. The status quo. So I think that especially when you're introducing transformative change, you need to understand that there is a norm, and uh, people typically are not going to be real receptive to change, and that's going to take a while. Uh, for instance, when I was in grade school, these kind of things weren't discussed. I'm not saying they should or they shouldn't be. As I mentioned earlier, that's not the point of this presentation. But nonetheless, there's something they're trying to do now. Some people feel like it should. Some people feel like they don't. But as a community psychologist, at least you have to understand that transformative change is not something that's going to be accomplished immediately. It's step by step, and it's battle by battle. And that's also what I mean by work in the middle. So I try my best to give you both sides. And so, especially with issues like this that are controversial and people are on either side, you have to kind of start working in the middle, and try to bring them apart as close as you can, and try to do it that way, because on bills like this one where people are either for it or against it, sticking to a side, it just divides everybody, and if you want to make transformative change, that will delay that. And lastly, from what we've learned in this chapter, if you're a supporter of the bill, you can say that it was written in a heteronormative and from a sinonormative perspective. The bill, remember earlier in the chapter, heteronormative is the belief that male and female is the norm, and anything other than that, it's less than. And the same thing with sign normative is that anything other than a boy or a girl is less than. So you that can also be something brought up for a supporter. And my last slide is working in solidarity with LGBTQ. Our text gives us these questions on whether that everybody should think pertaining to whether they're an actual ally or they're just or they perhaps say they are. So have I given myself the label of an ally, or am I acting in solidarity with LGBTQ people and movements that are inclusive of their needs? So are you really a supporter, or are you just saying you are? In what ways can I use my privilege to uplift the voices and work of LGBTQ people? In what ways can you actually speak up and speak out for them? You don't necessarily need to be LGBTQ. Am I unintentionally reinforcing the same oppressive behaviors that I claim to be against? Sometimes unconsciously, you can really reinforce the same behaviors that kind of go against LGBTQ and their ideals. How often do I speak up against the routine discriminations perpetrated by friends, family, coworkers, or neighbors? Do you call out homophobia, transphobia when you hear it? Am I aware of how much space I take up in a conversation with and about LGBTQ communities? Are you conscious of how much you talk about them, if you do at all? And lastly, is my attitude grounded in action? Are you just someone that just speaks, or are you someone that actually takes action, takes initiative, actually goes out, does something tangible, as opposed to just speaking, which speaking is action, but when you're grounded in action, you're more solidified, and you're doing more, than just speaking. Okay, and here are my references, and thank you for watching.